hello to you wherever you're watching today. When I'm sitting where you are, I normally have three questions. Who is this guy? What's he going to talk about? And why should I listen to him? So James has already done the introduction for the who is this guy question. I will be starting a new role on Monday, so I'm just updating LinkedIn. But number two, what's he going to talk about? Well, one of the most common questions I've been getting recently is about scaling up. How do you prioritize? Where do you prioritize? And how do you execute in a programmatic and structured way for growth? So there's many aspects to this. So in this sort of 7-minute slot, I'm going to focus on the TAM, total addressable market. And from there, I prioritize, segment, and execute. And then question number three, why should you listen to me? Well, hopefully this is going to be interesting. It may be very obvious to some of you. It may be confirming stuff that you've already done. Hopefully there will be a nugget in there from what I'm saying from my experience that you can try out and help with your growth. So let me just get started and jump in. So I mentioned this 3-letter acronym, a TAM, T-A-M. Total addressable market. That for me is normally the place of where to start. What is it and how do you do it? And a very simple mechanism is just to take a little simple table on it. So I take a table with your key products or propositions or services, whatever it is you're trying to sell or monetize. Take that on one side of the table, and across the top, just take the number, the segments that you want to sell into. That could be clearly a number of companies or organizations in the B2B world. You can segment that by whatever is appropriate. It could be the geo, if you're going international. It could be a postcode. It could be by industry, whatever it is that's relevant for what you're doing. The source for that will come from your founders, the development guys, with the product managers, marketing, etc. But you're the sales leader. It's your job to take that into the sales execution world. So what you do, basically, from those propositions against the number of companies, you want to then take per proposition what I call the average churn, i.e. the churn is the percentage of those companies that may be in a market in the time frame you want to model. So let's say 5% of companies will be in the market looking for your having a problem that your solutions or services may provide. You also then take an average deal size. You could split that into small, medium, large deals, but take an average deal size. And then you also take a win rate. So then you multiply that out per row proposition. So your churn rate against the average deal size, against your win rate, against the number of companies. And that will give you the addressable market for those. Now, that will then help you to understand where your potentials are. There are different types of those TAMs. So you could be looking at it depending on your stage or complexity of the sales propositions you're running. That could be a net new, so where you want to take into the net new business. Then there'll also be ones for the install base. So for that install base, you're modeling then what could be the upsells and the cross sells within it. So having done that, that gives you a very simple view, a landscape of where you can identify your priorities. And you marry with that what you're being aware of what your quick wins or your medium-term wins or your longer-term, depending on the horizon you're doing. It's a very dynamic and it's not a static piece of work. Once you've got that, you're then looking at, from a go-to-market perspective, there'll be different types from those propositions. Breaks into, for me, and then another 3 areas. There's the volume play. This is a classic where there's a big market. It's a simple buying steps, simple sales steps, and it's a lot of transactions that we go through. You then have what I call the dominoes to segment piece. So a domino is looking at where we have won before, and then you take that and look who else looks like that company, and you're looking to knock those over in a domino fashion. So therefore it becomes a segment, but it starts from where you've had success and you're leveraging it to knock them all over. And then the third category is what I call big bets. These are the large, transformational, game-changing deals for you, but also can be for the organizations that you're selling into. So these three types also then have a different type of recipe, resources, and things that go behind it to make it work. So each will have a particular approach, difference in the hooks for the inbound, your demand generation tactics, everything from social through to ABM, account-based, individual-based marketing, right the way through into what those sales cycles are, what the buying verification steps are within those opportunity stages. Each of those will have potentially different routes to market. So you need to consider whether it's something you want to invest or should be investing from a direct sales approach, or is it a channel sale? What alliances are in there? What influencers are in there? And that then affects what resourcing needs are. There are different ways to skin the cat of sales from a resourcing perspective. So with that analysis, you then have got an angle towards the costs and the return on that investment, because you need to, obviously, depending on the stage of where your company is, what return you need to get to and what milestones you need to do for growth. And there's decisions to be made where your priorities. You won't be able to do everything. So within that, you're going to have lots of iterations on what works. Clearly, I've done a lot of what those recipes are and how the execution works. That's for a different session. The one thing I would say on it is to feel fast and learn from the steps that you're going through. This is not an intellectual exercise. This is something about learning from that execution and giving a lens to look through. So coming up in my 7 minutes, I can see the time from a timer. So just to wrap up, I want to leave you with a bit of a classic summary takeaways. I'd encourage you to do your TAMs, but don't overanalyze them. These aren't massive PhD intellectual pieces of work. These are to help you get an understanding of the priorities and where your best return will be and how you plan against your appropriate resourcing. Understand the segments that it tells you about, and therefore what the sort of go-to-market needs to be, whether it's cross-volume or big bets or the dominoes to segments, and identify what your resourcing is or what you may need to do to take advantage of a market opportunity. I'd encourage you also to be working closely with modern marketing techniques. Sales and marketing should not be separate. They have to be joined up. Sales needs to know what marketing is doing and vice versa. They're much more close these days than they have been in the recent past. And lastly, I'll just reiterate again, feel fast and iterate. Sales is a performance game. It's not an academic exercise. None of this is static, but hopefully it gives you that framework to be able to identify where your top opportunities are and where that potential is to make your priority decisions.